Alrighty, so good morning and happy Thursday, people. And as a reminder, be safe. The stinking weather supposedly is supposed to get nasty again this evening. But anyway, so today I want to tell you a story about when I was six. So when I was six, I was at a potluck in Frenchtown, Montana. Okay, so we lived in Montana from the age of 1 to 6, and then 6 to 9, I lived in Wyoming, and then we moved to Brazil. But anyway, so when we were at this potluck, I saw the older kids, and they were jumping off of the back of the stairs, off of this fire escape. So like you climb up the ladder or the stairs, really, and then you could go on the back, and then they would jump off. And it was only about one story, 10, 12 feet, which isn't honestly that high. But when you're six, I guess it's pretty stinking high. Anyway, I was impressed. It looked exciting, fun, a touch scary. It was the cool thing to do. And of course, I wanted to impress them. And so I was like, well, shoot, I'm going to do this. So I walked up the stairs to the top of the ladder. And as I was doing that, they looked at me, all these high school kids, like I was crazy. And like I say, you're rightfully so, because that was not an intelligent move. Um, and so then I ducked under the safety bars, which should have been my first sign, and I looked down from the top of the stairs. And from the top of the stairs, it looked much higher than it did from the ground. Okay, and I became scared, right? And the older kids were just sitting there watching. They probably honestly wanted to stop me, but at the same time, they're super curious about what was going to happen. And I felt like I couldn't back down now. Like I made it to the top, everybody was staring at me. I felt all this pressure, and then as I hesitated, one of them said, "Do it." And so I was like, "Okay." So I jumped, and I broke my left ankle. Better word is probably shatter, but and I broke it. And I broke it so severely and in such a unique way that there was like my parents took me to all kinds of specialists, but there was only one surgeon in the nation, and he was located in Denver at Brenner's Child's Hospital, who was even willing to operate it on and touch it. Um, and my parents and I were told that I would never be able to play sports, go into the military, and that I would most likely need a cane by the age of 30, because they're going to have to essentially fuse my ankle, so that my left ankle, so that it couldn't turn to the left or the right. It was going to be fixed. And then I'm going to touch on the outcome and faithfulness of God on that in a second, because the passage of today is First Corinthians 10:13, and it says, "No temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind, and God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear, but when you are tempted, He will also provide a way out so that you can endure it." Okay, and so this passage is in my opinion is both challenging and encouraging. It's challenging because often when we are facing difficult situations and temptations, we tend to isolate ourselves. Okay, we tend to think that we are the exception to the rule, that this temptation, whatever it is foreign to others, and we are just simply too weak and incompetent and dumb, lazy, you name it, to overcome it. And then plus, like, because we're embarrassed and frustrated, or feel this pressure about whatever it is the temptation is, what we do is we tend to isolate ourselves and battle this temptation on our own, which basically leads to demeaning thoughts, okay, which causes more guilt and or frustration, which in like which relating back to my story, which leads us closer to the edge of the ladder in most cases. And even though we've already jumped once, twice, hundreds, thousands of times, and already know what's going to happen when we land, guess what? Why? Guess what we do? Okay, we jump anyway. So, in the context of weight loss, that often means eating junk, overeating, binge eating, emotional eating, not eating enough, punishing ourselves for our lack of self discipline. And like the list is endless on what we do. But the encouraging part of this passage is God is faithful. We will fall, we will jump, okay? But He promises to always provide a way out through His power and grace, okay? And that could mean reaching for the phone and calling a friend instead of reaching for the bag of potato chips because you're bored and mindlessly eat. That could mean choosing to play with your kids or grandkids instead of sitting and watching Netflix or playing there scrolling on your phone. Okay, get some activity. Now, will you be perfect? No. Unfortunately, we live in a broken and fallen world, which means we will make mistakes and fall into temptations, both big and small. Okay. But if we seek God's help and actively look for a way out, it will happen much less and we will see many more victories. Okay. Through His grace, His mercy, and His power. So, point in case, back to like my dismal diagnosis with my left ankle. So, it was permanently fused. I would never be able to turn my ankle, and still can't, to the left or the right. Okay, which means that I wouldn't be able to play sports, go into the military, and I would need a cane by the age of 30 because essentially the pain was going to be so severe that I wouldn't be able to like put all my body weight on my left ankle. Um, but thankfully, God had other plans. As most of you not only did I continue to play sports, but I actually got an athletic scholarship to play football at a small college, Montana State University Northern. I was even co-captain, and not only was I able to join the military, but I was part of two branches. I went to Officer Candidate School with the Marines and Officer Development School with the Navy, and I served as a chaplain. And lastly, I am 38, and I still don't need a cane. But I won't lie. Sometimes when the weather changes, it gets achy, and I feel it. So I don't know how much longer that's going to last. But I'm still over 8 years from the benchmark. Now the question becomes like, what are you facing? What is difficult or hard? What temptation is holding you back from getting to where you want to go from a physical and health standpoint? Okay. And remember, you're not alone. Okay. Grace is yours. Turn to Him and seek out a close friend or me, because oftentimes God uses others in our lives to battle hard times or difficulties. Okay. We weren't meant to live in isolation. We were meant to be in a community. And here's a good starting point. I would strongly encourage you to pray and meditate on these three statements. Okay. One, ask God to show you how to avoid the temptation, whatever it is. Okay. Two, ask God to remove the temptation. What would that look like? Okay. Three, ask God to help you overcome the temptation. And the hard truth is sheer willpower is not enough. It's just not enough. Temptations are so strong and so hard to say no to that we need God to work in our lives to produce in us the fruit of self control, which gives us not only the desire, but also the ability to say no when we are tempted. Okay. So having a heart that loves and seeks to please God, okay, makes saying no much easier. So stand in confidence knowing that with God's help, you can say no when tempted and overcome these temptations and get victories. So my prayer is, God, thank you for your faithfulness and for never allowing my temptations to crush me. And Father, I ask that you please fill me with your Holy Spirit and produce in me both the desire and the ability to say no when I'm tempted. All right. So this is Kellen Lake. Go and be awesome and be safe tonight.